Good morning! Well, I have been growing a lovely selection of plants here for the Maenan Abbey Gardening Club because they're having a sale at the Maenan Abbey Hotel on the 17th of May. So if you're in the area, do go to it. Unfortunately, I can't go to it myself because I'm going to be working, but I am going to be donating all of these plants to it. But unfortunately, I've gone a bit over the top and I've done a few too many plants because I've also got this lot here as well. And most of these, there's already 4 or 5 of them in the selection over there, so I'm thinking I've got too many here, so I'm going to take these ones to the water gardens and start planting them at work. So yeah, let's get some plants in. Right, well, I've got about half an hour before I have to go and unlock the shop, so if I don't get these all planted today, I'll just carry on and try again tomorrow. But I'm down on the bottom lake here, so we've got the river running along here, so the rhododendrons are just coming out into flower. We've got all the garlic here, that's all looking fantastic. And then we've got this corner here, and that's looking really good. So daffodils have just finished, the bluebells are coming up there. We've got this white flower over there, it's looking good. There's crocosmia in here, so that should look great in the autumn. There's the odd bit of campion. There's also this stuff here that looks like stinging nettles, but it's not. It's got a purple flower to it, it smells weird. Highly descriptive, I know. But yeah, so that's all looking really good there. But then on the other side, you've got this. So this is underneath a yew tree here, so yew trees do tend to kill off a lot of stuff below. Now, I have tried planting stuff under here in the past. So last year I put in this bush here, there's another one there, and there's another one down here somewhere over there. They seem to have survived, so I'm thinking things might survive under here, but I need something relatively hardy. So one of the baskets I've got here is pretty much entirely sedge. So although it looks like it's dead, it is supposed to look like this. So this is a brown sedge. It's about 2,000 varieties of sedge. So I have no idea which one this is. I was gardening for somebody. It forms a nice clump like that. Problem is it spreads easily by seed. So these are all seedlings that I dug out from their path. So it hasn't cost me anything, only a bit of time to pot them up. So my plan is to just fill this section here. Hopefully they'll spread and form a nice mat of grass under here, because that will look really good when the wind blows through it. But if not, and they die, never mind, because I haven't paid for them. So yeah, let's just spread them all through here and get planting. Right, well that's the first 23 pots in, which is good. So it was quite interesting with the soil. The further up the bank you go, the drier it gets. So at the bottom here is a good moisture content. Right at the very top there, closest to the tree, obviously, it is quite dry. So I'm not sure how well they're going to do, but that should give a nice gradient going up. So with the plants, I've given it an irregular planting pattern because although I have just planted them, I want it to look natural. So I want it to look like the plants have just arrived. So hopefully with the irregular planting, it should look quite good. So they've kind of disappeared for now, but hopefully they'll fill out and put some growth on, and this should look really good over the summer. Right, I'm going to go and find somewhere else for the rest of these plants. Right, well I'm on the other side of the bottom lake here, and last time I was at this section here, I think it was back in the autumn, putting this log edging in, and it really has livened up since then. Now we're getting more light come into here. Stuff has really started growing, which is excellent. So I think down here, I think this is brook lime that's coming up, so that should have a blue flower on it. We've got the ferns coming up that are quite nice. We've also got this little flower here, purple, that's just growing all through here. There's a couple of creeping buttercups in there as well. Various grasses coming up. And in this section here, we've got these flowers here with the pink. Now, I can't remember the name of them. I've got polygonium or something like that in my head. I'll double check the name and put that at the bottom of the screen. I actually planted those last year, and I also planted some begonias in here, or elephant's ears. So they took a while to settle down, but they are in there, so they should be putting some bigger leaves out soon, so that would be good. So to add to this, I am going to be putting in some iris. So in my basket here, I have got Siberian iris. So it's quite a thin leaf, and it comes up with a very tall, slender stem, purple iris flower on the top of it. It looks really delicate, but they're really robust. So I've got quite a few of those, and I'll put those through here. So these do really well in boggy conditions. And there's a few flower buds coming on them as well, so we should even get flowers this year. So right, let's get those in. Right, well this isn't the easiest bed to plant into because it's quite a heavy clay on this side, but I'm doing my best. So got a couple more plants to go in here. So we've got this one here, which is a purple cornflower. So this is a perennial cornflower. I've got two of those. So they can swamp things out around them, so you do have to be careful where you put them. But for here, this section's quite bare, so I'm thinking they'll be good there. And I've also got this one here, which is a geranium. So this is quite an unusual one because it's a scented geranium. It should get quite chunky as well, and it has a purple flower to it. Most scented geraniums are indoor geraniums, but this one is an outdoor geranium. So, right, let's get these in. Right, so I'm down by the playhouse here, and I've got three that I want to plant into here. So this is the first one. It's a Cape fuchsia. So technically it's not a fuchsia, but they call it that because it looks like a fuchsia, and it has little red trumpet flowers on it, so that should be quite nice. Forms a little bush. Next one is this one here that looks like a bramble. Technically it's the same family, but I remember the name. I think Rubin's tricolour or something like that. But those aren't thorns along the side, it's actually furry, and you'll see these, they spread, they do make a little blackberry like fruit on them, and I believe they are edible, but that should spread quite nicely over the ground and give good ground cover. So I'm going to put that through here. If kids play through here and trample on it, I'm not too worried about it. And the third one's really going to surprise you because it's a willow. So this, I know I dislike willow and I pull them out a lot, but this is a completely different variety. So this one has more of a yellow stem to it, and it has a small pointy leaf, and this one, if you cut it down, will put bright yellow shoots up, so that should be really nice. Again, get it in here. If anyone breaks it off, it's not a problem because new shoots will come up and they'll give good colour. So I'm thinking that will fill out that area over there behind the bamboo. Right, well I've got 3 pots left in the basket for today, so I'm going to be putting them in here in the wildlife observation area. So although it doesn't look like it's doing a lot at the moment, there is quite a few plants coming up through here. So we've got creeping buttercup throughout it, which can be a bit of a pain because it can be a bit invasive. But we've got this plant coming up here with the white flowers. I'm going to have to find out what the name is of that. There's quite a bit of that coming up through there. There is cranesbill geranium coming up in here, quite a few different ferns. We have got campion coming up in here. We have got nettles, which... Nettles are good for butterflies. Obviously they sting as well, so they're not so comfortable, but it might actually be nice to keep a few of those around as well. But what I'm going to be planting is these, which are I know them as Michaelmas daisies, other people call them asters, and yeah, this is a slightly invasive spreading variety, so it's going to form quite a large clump, but they grow to about 2 to 3 feet tall. Purple daisy like flower on top. They're really nice, great for butterflies, so I'm going to be putting them down the back there. So yeah, let's get those in. Right, so that's another 15 pots in, so we'll see what the basket has tomorrow. Right, well it's next day and I've brought 2 more baskets of plants in with me. So this basket here is entirely Siberian iris. There is a forget-me-not in one of the pots with the iris, but I'm going to be planting them in this section here. So last year I did plant a few plants, so there's that shrub there that's coming up nicely. And over in this section, now I thought it was goldenrod that I planted. I'm looking at these plants coming up and I'm thinking they don't look quite like goldenrod, but they are what I planted, so they're coming up, which is good. There's also some crocosmia there, some crocosmia there, and some crocosmia over there as well, so they're quite good. But this section in the middle is really quite bare, so I'll plant the irises in here. Now it's a little bit boggy, they can cope with bog. It's also shady. Now the irises, I've got them in my garden at home, they seem to do well in the shade. The only problem is that they don't tend to flower in the shade, so we'll see how they go. The plants themselves should form nice clumps, so that'll give some greenery to this, which will be better. If they don't flower, I've got 2 options. I can possibly remove a few branches there, get some light down to them, then hopefully they'll flower that way, or just let the clumps get bigger, then I can divide the clumps and move them elsewhere on the grounds. But yeah, let's see how I can get them in here. Right, well that's those in, and I've left enough space between them so I can actually get the rake through here, because there's a land drain that empties out there, so in the winter we actually get water flowing from there and it has to go into this pipe here, so I need to keep that section clear. So yeah, that should work. Right, on to the next basket. Right, well we're on to the last basket. So just for location, I'm at the end of the new bridge there that goes over the river, and I'm looking at this section here. So we've got selection of rhododendrons in here, so there's a white one over there and the pink one here coming into flower. They're looking fantastic. Unfortunately the others haven't got any flowers on them, so I don't know what colour they are. But there's a few hostas coming up in here. We've got some crocosmia coming up here and here. We've got some reeds in here. We've got some little violets coming up. There's creeping jenny in the ground there as well, so that's looking good. There are a few bare patches. A lot of that is because it was quite shady over here, but I've trimmed branches off of that over the winter. There's a tree taken down over there, there's a tree taken down over there, so that's allowing more light in, so hopefully stuff will start spreading. We just need some seeds into the soil for stuff to grow. So it's doing better than it was last year, but it's going to take a while to carry on. So I'll add these in and hopefully that'll improve it. So what have I got here? I have got these two here. They are toad flax, so they grow 2 to 3 feet tall. Purple or pink flower on them, a little bit like a snapdragon. They're quite a nice one. Got this one here, that is an Aquilegia, also known as lady's bonnet, I believe. So bell-shaped flower on it, a bit like a lady's bonnet. Can't tell you what colour it is. They usually are purple, possibly pink, but you can get them in yellow. They don't always grow true to seed, so that one's come from seeds. It's probably a purple one from my garden, but it could come up any colour. We've got this one here, that is an ice plant or a sedum. So that's a large variety of sedum. They can grow up to about 2 foot tall. Usually they're a bit bigger than this. These are only seedlings. And they have this big cluster of pink flowers. They're absolutely fantastic for bees in the autumn. Last plant I'm going to be putting in this section is this one here, which I think is a St. John's wort. It has a big yellow flower on it, and I'll see if I can find a photo of the flower, because the flower is really quite great. It has this fluffy centre to it. Again, good for bees. Now there is this one here, which is a similar plant. That is the wild variety. You can also get it as a bush variety. This one is a ground cover variety, so that one only grows up to about 1 foot tall, has yellow flowers on the end of the new growth, so that might flower this year, but that will just spread across the surface and make a nice small clump. So yeah, let's get those in, and then I'll tell you what the other two are in the basket. Right, so we're on to the last two pots. So despite the look of it, they are actually the same plant. This technically is a weed because it's an antirrhinum or a snapdragon that's turning up in the pot. So it's quite a nice plant. I am going to leave it, but it's the trees in the pots that I'm actually after. So these are acacias. So they have quite a delicate leaf to them. They do get incredibly large. They do flower as well. They have this pendular white flower, a bit like a wisteria. They do look really impressive when they're in flower. The only downside to them is, I don't know if you can make it out there, that is a massive great big spike. They do have spikes on them. Now that's not a problem when they're a tree, because it's only to protect the leaves. I believe they evolved the spikes to prevent giraffes from eating them. Giraffes then evolved to be able to eat them, so it didn't really work. But once it's a tree form, the trunk at the bottom doesn't have any spikes, it's only up the top. So if I can get that big enough that it's over 10 foot tall, I won't have to worry about the spikes. But at the moment I do, so I want to get that somewhere that the public aren't going to be grabbing hold of it. So I thought, I'm at the side of the training pool here, is to plant them at the bottom of this willow. I don't know how well it's going to work, but I don't like this willow. It's falling out in every direction, so I'd really like to get rid of it. So I'm thinking if I can get those in there and get them established, they're a lot better than the willow. At some stage we can take the willow out and they'll be there to replace it. So I'm going to try and get one in down there and then one in that mess under there somehow. So yeah, let's get those in. Well, that is all the pots emptied now, so that's a good 50 plants that I've put in there. Hopefully that'll make the water gardens a little brighter when they're out in flower. So I've got enough space here that I can actually plant my tomatoes, so I'm really pleased. But I've also got all these plants here that I am going to be taking to the sale at the Maenan Abbey. So Maenan Abbey Hotel, 17th of May. Make sure you go if you're in the area, because you can always find some unusual plants at garden sales like that. ones that aren't always available in the garden centres. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you later.